Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Online Aquarium Academy. My name is Tiffany. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. I'm joined in the studio today with my friend Jen, that is going to be taking us on our ocean backyard adventure. Yes, you heard that right. I'm here in Southern California in Long Beach, and my backyard is the ocean, and we are going to learn all about how to protect that. Now, if you are watching with us live, that is at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, what is today, the 24th of June, you can text us. Jen is eagerly awaiting your text. That number to text is 562-286-1838. If you are watching this and it is not Tuesday at 9 a.m. to 9:30, we would still love to hear from you. Just please email us at live@lbaop.org. All right. I said we are investigating our ocean backyard. Now, what is our ocean backyard? What does it look like? You might have gone to the beach before, so you might just be thinking about the sand, the sandy beach, where the water meets the land. Yeah, that's definitely our ocean backyard. But if you were to continue walking into the water, you might find a kelp forest. So we are going to be talking about kelp forests, the different animals that live in a kelp forest, and the big protector of the kelp forests. So if you have paper, a whiteboard, pencil, crayons, whatever, we are going to be drawing a food web together. Now, a food web just shows us where energy is traveling within a habitat, within an animal's home. So the habitat we're looking at today is this kelp forest. Now, you're probably noticing a lot of different animals. We see a lot of fish, but we see different types of fish, don't we? There's definitely more than just fish in a kelp forest. We also see the big boulders or rocks. We see the kelp itself. We see a couple of different types of kelp. Do you see how this one is different than that one? And even that one over here is different. Ooh, that one over there is different. So a kelp forest has lots of different types of kelp. Very tall kelp going up, up, up to the surface of the water where the sun is. That is what we are going to be drawing today. And this right here is actually a live webcam. At any point in time, if you have access to the internet, you can ask an adult if you can watch our webcams here at the aquarium. And we have one here. This is called Blue Cavern. This is our kelp forest, but we also have some warmer water, like our different tropical exhibits. We have the jellies. We even have the penguins, which that's pretty fun to watch depending on the season. The penguins are up to different shenanigans, that's for sure. Okay, so this kelp forest, we are watching it live right now. Make a couple of observations. I already pointed out a few things, but what are some things that you think are important parts of this food web? Are the rocks important? Is every different species of fish important? What do you think is missing? Because what we're looking at is just an exhibit here at the aquarium. A kelp forest in our ocean backyard is going to look different. How might it look different? Ooh, do you see this down here? That fish looked a little bit different than the other ones, didn't it? Oh, it's coming back around. We see a shark. That was a leopard shark. Oh my gosh, look at that in the background. Of course, it goes off into the depths. That was a ray. So we got to see a shark. We got to see a ray. We see all the different types of fish. Oh, there's the shark again. Perfect. Okay, now this is looking a little bit more like a kelp forest, right? We got different types of fish. Those sharks and rays are a type of fish, believe it or not, even though they look so, so different than the other fish that are swimming around. let's go ahead and get started with our, I just love that shark swimming by. Get started with our drawing of our food web, and we are going to start from the bottom of the food chain and we are going to work our way up. So that means we are going to start with things in this habitat that aren't even alive, and then we'll get started with the things that are the producers, the things that make their own food. So let's first start with the things that are not alive in this habitat. Now, was there anything not alive in Blue Cavern? Saw the kelp. That's similar to being like a type of plant. It's an algae. We see the fish. Those are definitely alive. What is in this habitat that is not alive? If you like, if you're watching live, you can text us in your answers and draw along with us. But you might notice, are these rocks alive? No, definitely not. So let's go ahead and add rocks into our drawing. And they're not just like little rocks, they're huge boulders, aren't they? They kind of got all these different little cracks and crevices in them. There's another big boulder. Okay, so I got my big boulders. And you might also have noticed that the very bottom was sand. So you could draw in your sand. Now, are the boulders and sand, are they important parts of this habitat? Or could this habitat be just fine without them? What do you think? Yes, we need them. No, it doesn't really matter. We don't need them. Ooh, look at that ray swimming by. Yes, they are definitely important parts of this habitat, because you might notice that the algae, is it growing out of the sand? No, it's growing out of the rocks. So that algae, that kelp, has to anchor itself down onto the rocks so that when big waves come, they are anchored into the rock. If they were anchored into the sand, big wave comes, they're immediately going to shore. And you've probably gone to the beach and seen lots of seaweed up on the shore before. That's what's going to happen. And then the sand is also important because there's animals like flatfish or even those rays that we saw that hang out in the sand and hide in the sand. So that sand, yeah, look at that. So I know you can say, hey, there's a fish right there. But not all animals have the same type of vision as we do. That fish is probably very hidden. Many, many different sea animals. So this sand is definitely important. And you also see some grass actually growing out of the sand right there. So rocks and sand, even though they are not alive, they are super important parts of this habitat. And you can see, again, our big rocks and the sand and all of those fish just kind of gently moving with the current. Oh my gosh, look at that eel. Blending in with that kelp. Okay, is there anything else in this habitat that's not alive that we need to add into our drawing? All of the water, right? That's important. So I'll draw just the water line up here. And something that we often kind of take for granted, the sun. Sun is a very important part of this habitat, and it actually helps out the foundation of our food web, because now that we got down all of the non-living parts of our habitat, the abiotic factors, now we're going to talk about the biotic factors, the things that are alive in this habitat. And we're starting again at the bottom of the food chain with the producers, and we're going to be talking about the kelp itself. Where does the kelp get its energy from? It gets its energy from the sun. Look at that shark just hanging. Oh, there's two sharks. Two sharks just hanging down at the bottom. See, that sand is super important. They're hanging out down there in the sand. Guess where they can find their food? Down there in the sand, hiding. But they can't hide from the skilled shark. Okay, so now we're going to draw our kelp, and it is growing up, up, up towards the surface of the water, closer and closer to the sun. Now this right here that I'm drawing, that is called the holdfast. It's very similar to roots. So plants on land have roots. Their roots go deep, deep, deep into the earth. That helps to anchor them to the earth. And for roots, it also actually, they bring in nutrients through their roots. Now, that's not the case with this holdfast. The holdfast is simply just for holding on. Remember that those ocean waves are really strong, really powerful. These kelp strands need to just hold on. So we're okay. So you can see here this kelp, and then look at this. Just looks like this big old mess of spaghetti. That is the holdfast. So it looks like a bunch of gnarly roots. Yeah, that's a great picture right there. So that's the holdfast, and it just looks like a bunch of roots, and it is just getting into that boulder so that it can grow up super long, up towards the sun, and stay anchored into that rock when those big waves come. And then we have all these blades on our kelp. Let's draw another one over here. Once the kelp gets tall enough and it gets to the surface of the water, do you think it starts growing out of the surface of the water like a tree? No. Just kind of flops over and grows along the surface of the water. Now, just like a forest on land, when you think of a forest on land, what do you think of? The first thing that comes to my mind are trees, right? The trees are a very, very important part of a forest. And the kelp is a very, very important part of the kelp forest. I mean, without the kelp, there's no forest, right? There's no habitat. There's no place to call home. The kelp is also a source of food for some animals. It's a nursery where baby animals can grow up and hide among the leaves. So this kelp is obviously a very, very, even though it's the foundation, just the beginning of our food web, it's a very, very important part. So the sun is giving energy to the kelp. The kelp does photosynthesis, similar to a plant on land. Okay, are we done? No, definitely not. When we were looking at all those different videos of different kelp forests, it wasn't just kelp. Now there's something that has to eat the kelp, right? And there are all sorts of animals that eat algae. One in particular, like different fish can eat algae, snails eat algae, maybe different types of crabs can eat algae, lots of different invertebrates for sure eating algae. But one that I want to talk about that eats only its veggies is the urchin. So that right there is a purple cactus. No, this is an urchin, and this is an animal. Even though we don't see any eyes, and from this angle you actually don't see its mouth, this is an animal, which simply means that it has to eat in order to get its energy. The algae, the kelp that we were just talking about, gets its energy from the sun, and it uses that to to make its own sugars, to make its own food. But animals, like you and me, have to eat to get our energy. And that urchin that we just saw probably was eating because its mouth is right there on the bottom. This stuff that kind of looks like hair is not hair. Instead of having 2 legs for walking around like we do, these things have hundreds of little legs. They are called tube feet. And you can almost see a little white dot at the end of each strand. And that's like a little suction cup. And that's what it uses to hold on really, really tight. It can hold on to the rocks. It can grab a piece of kelp. And like I said, this one, it's only eating its veggies. How many of you out there are fans of your veggies? Only a few of you. What? You need to eat your veggies. This urchin is eating only its veggies. It is eating kelp. And in this picture, you can really see all those things that look like little hairs. No, those are all of its little legs, its little tube feet. You can even see some of the tube feet down that are anchoring it onto this rock. Very cool. But it's also going to use those little tube feet and even the little spines to grab on to blades of kelp to bring it down, 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 down to its mouth, which is underneath. And it's going to eat kelp. That's what it does. Just like you can think of animals on land that eat only grass, like rabbits, for example. This is just the spiky little bunny rabbit of the sea. Okay, let's add in our urchins. Now, there's different types of urchins. The ones that we were looking at were actually all purple urchins. But there's red urchins, there's green urchins, there's even urchins that have really thick spines. But here in our ocean backyard, we have purple, we have red. I tend to see a lot of purple. So I'm going to draw the purple urchins, and I'm drawing them on the kelp or on the holdfast because they're going to be eating. Okay. Whoa, starting to get a lot of urchins over here. And so energy from the kelp is going to the urchin. But what if we just stopped here? What if we're like, nope, this habitat is good. We've got one thing that's like a plant, one thing that's like an animal. We're good. We wouldn't be good, right? Over time, even though these urchins are really slow moving, without anything to eat the urchins, these urchins are just going to multiply and eat all of the kelp. And in some areas, that actually is happening. We call them urchin barrens, areas that were a kelp forest where you have all of the different types of fish and sharks and rays, but now there's just nothing but urchins because there wasn't any animals in that habitat that could eat urchins. Because, I mean, think about that urchin. It looks like a cactus, doesn't it? It has all of those spines for protection. And it does a really good job of protecting that urchin. There aren't many animals that can eat an urchin. So even though the kelp forest might be full of all those little fish and even those sharks, guess what? Even those sharks are not eating these little urchins. There are just a handful of animals that can eat the urchins, and if those animals are not in the kelp forest, ooh, here we go. This used to be a beautiful kelp forest, and now what do you see? I see a lot of purple urchins. Here are some of those red urchins that I was talking about. Do you see anything else? I might see like a tiny bit of algae right there, but other than that, I don't see other fish. I don't see all of that tall, beautiful kelp. I don't see any seals or sea lions. I don't see anything. And this is what happens if our food web gets out of balance. These animals need a predator to keep their populations in check. So what kind of animals can eat urchins? Because I said no, do. Here in Southern California, we have the California sheephead. They're a really big fish that can eat urchins. Look at that. Look at that jaw. That's a pretty beefy jaw. And they have teeth, some pretty scary teeth inside of that mouth. And that is what they can use to crunch up that outside hard exterior of the urchin to eat the meat inside. There's also sunflower stars that can eat urchins, but we don't have a lot of sunflower stars here in Southern California. Unfortunately, there was the sea star wasting disease a number of years ago, and the sunflower stars were hit really, really hard. Another animal that unfortunately we do not have here in Southern California that can eat a lot of urchins is the southern sea otter. So the southern sea otter, this adorable little friend right here, can eat urchins. How? Those things look like a cactus. You want to bite into that thing like an apple? Absolutely not. Do you see these adorable little paws? This otter can use those little paws and use tools like a rock to smash up that outside, that hard exterior with all of those spines, and then eat the meat that is inside. So sea otters are a super important superhero in the kelp forest, because without them, it's really hard to maintain that balance in the kelp forest. Let's go ahead and draw our sea otter into our habitat. I'm going to draw mine up at the top here. It's got little ears. In the back it has little flippers. And here's its little paws holding a sea urchin. So sea otters, once they do get their prey, and let's draw from the urchin to the sea otter, that transfer of energy, they can go up to the surface of the water, lay on their back, and use their tummy like a dinner table. I have a sea otter right here to show you. Perfect, a video. So you can see we're throwing what looks like either shrimp or clam at our otters. They're up at the surface of the water on their backs and using their tummy like a dinner table. But this little otter is moving so fast that you barely even see the food, right? It is quickly using its little hands to get the shell off of the shrimp. Do you see that? Tossing it little shrimp. It happens so fast. We gotta do slow-mo or something. And then it eats the meat and quickly discards the shell. It happens so fast. And you see all that beautiful kelp right there at the top as well. So again, they're just laying like this. Perfect. This is another great adaptation that they have right there in their mouth to help eat those urchins. Their teeth. They actually have a similar teeth setup to what we have. So with your tongue, not your hands, feel your teeth. Are all of your teeth the same? No. We have different types of teeth in our mouth, and they have different roles. Feel the ones in the front. We can bite with those ones. The next ones, the ones that are a little bit spikier, are canines. Look at those canines that this sea otter has. And then in the back, feel those teeth. Our molars. Those are used for chewing. And the sea otters also have molars in the back as well. They have a very similar teeth setup to what we have. They just don't have like the big front teeth that we have. You can see that they have little tiny teeth in the front. But they got those big canines for ripping into that meat, and then the molars in the back for chewing up that meat. So the sea otters are super important. We can find sea otters right now in central California and going farther north as well. And they are the protectors of our ocean backyard, of the kelp forest, because without them, we saw that urchin barren. The sea otters, unfortunately, are endangered. Their population numbers are going up, but you see all of this adorable, what looks like soft, fluffy fur. They have some super, super thick fur that helps them stay warm in the cold, cold ocean waters. So those of you that live in Southern California, have you gone swimming in the ocean lately? Was it warm or cold? The beach itself was probably warm, but the water is probably pretty cold. This little animal lives in the ocean 24/7. So to stay warm, it has this super thick fur. Unfortunately, that fur is what got them into a little bit of trouble. People hunted them for their fur to make coats, and they hunted them to almost the point that they were extinct. That fur. That fur right now that we see is a little bit wet. That's why you see it kind of clumping together a little bit. But when you try to part that fur on that sea otter, all you find is more fur. And that's another great look of them using their little paws to, again, get the shell off of that shrimp and then eat the shrimp. It happens so fast, you barely even notice it, barely even see it. But that fur helps to ensure that water never even touches their skin, so they aren't getting cold like we are when we go and jump into the ocean. But there's just a handful of sea otters left after all of this hunting, and we have 2,000 to 3,000 sea otters now in the wild, and all of those otters came from that population after that hunting became illegal of these sea otters. Now, here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, we are trying slowly but surely to help boost some of those population numbers by having the Monterey Bay Aquarium Sea Otter Surrogacy Program. So, adorable little sea otter pups, they are orphaned out in the wild, out in the kelp forest. They're a mammal, just like you and me. They need to get milk from their mom. They need their mom to train them how to take care of that super important fur, how to hunt for those urchins, because that's their super important role in that habitat. But without a mom, what's going to happen? So we have adult female sea otters that adopt basically these little orphan pups and train them up to be sea otters, to take care of their fur, to hunt for different invertebrates in their ocean homes so that we can put them back into their natural habitat. Do we have any pictures of one of these little pups? We'll try and see if we can find one. It's quite the treat to see such a tiny little pup. Now, if you come to the Aquarium of the Pacific, if you kind of live in the Southern California region, we don't have these adorable little pups for people to see, unfortunately. We do have some sea otters that are on exhibit for everyone to see, and all of those have been deemed non-releasable, meaning that they're going to be in a zoo or aquarium to be an ambassador for their species, to teach people, oh my gosh, look at this, to teach people about sea otters and how to protect sea otters and protect our oceans. But we do have little pups that are behind the scenes with their adoptive moms, with their surrogate moms. And we want them behind the scenes because we don't want them to see and hear people all of the time. Because when they go back into their natural habitat, we don't want them to think people are cool, friendly, or family. We want them to be scared of people, right? Because when you go out into nature, all of those animals shouldn't want to hang out with you, shouldn't want food from you. They should just be a wild animal. So that's why we have some sea otter pups behind the scenes that are being raised by our surrogate moms. This is an example of a sea otter pup. I believe this one was Ollie, and we raised her here at the aquarium. So cute, all that fluffy, fluffy little fur. All right, everyone, that is all the time that we have for today. If you have any questions, please email us at live@lbaop.org. Definitely check out those live webcams that we have on our website. We also have another program, Movin' and Groovin', happening today at 10 o'clock. Don't miss out. We'll see you there. Everyone, keep exploring. Until next time, have a great day.